Okay, so we are live, episode 13 of the Long Toss here on the Walkoff. Thanks everybody for tuning in, listening, watching live on YouTube Sunday nights, or watching later on in the week. I know we re-release it Monday mornings at this point. So thank you, however you're getting your comments in, your viewership in. We appreciate it. What's up to Connor in the chat? Looks like we got a handful of people slowly rolling in, so that'll be good. If you are watching live, we will get to your comments as we go, so feel free to drop your comments or questions for anyone in particular or for the general panel as we go, and we will get to it, but it might be a few minutes before there's a break in the conversation and we get to double back and get to everything. So before we get started and we get to the intros, I do have to shout out our sponsor. So shout out to Oh My Apparel. That is Out Hustle My Yesterday. By athletes for athletes, but dad bods are allowed to buy as well, which I found out last week. So that's cool. Local Calgary Canadian apparel company. So some really good stuff there. They designed our logo, so if you're a sports team and you want a logo designed for your beer league softball team or whatever, look them up and shout them out. They're pretty phenomenal with the graphic design. So thank you to Duncan with Oh My Apparel. All right, last thing now, I do have to mention the Patreon. Shout out to our Patreon for supporting us there. Joel, Joshua, Jeremy, Ian, and our two newest members of Patreon, Rashid and Simon. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. We love you, even all the cheapskates as well. Let's get to our panel now. So some familiar faces. Let's start with Jen. Baseball. Jen, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. That was an exciting game today, even though
tough
the
loss
Jays
in the
couldn't
end.
quite pull it out. But yeah, that was great baseball.
It was fun to watch for sure. And Joel, hey Kami, how you doing?
Doing great. I'm gonna blame that loss on our 13th episode. That's Romano's
unlucky
streak on the
13.
13th. Yeah, right. That has to be why. Take the blame.
We should I'll just when I re-release this Monday morning, we'll make it episode 14. You know, like the elevators that just don't have a 13th floor. Something like that. If we just change the thumbnail and the title of the video, nobody will know.
Episode 12B.
Yeah, 12B, exactly. All right, and then we've got Al or Garth Orgy on Twitter. Quite the username.
Thanks for having me. Oh, God, I hate Jeremy Pena. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome. We're excited to talk baseball with you. And another new face here. You might recognize that as not a Blue Jays hat on his head. But we're excited to have him nonetheless. So Jack runs the Daily Dose of Baseball account on TikTok. Did I get that correct?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Love your account there. Anyone who's under 30 probably already knows you. Anybody who's over 30 will never tune in anyways. But Daily Dose of Baseball on TikTok. Go check it out. It's not just Orioles content, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I actually post more content about other teams than the Orioles. It's at that point, even though my profile picture is Cedric Mullins, so it's a little weird there.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you. I'm sure we'll talk lots of baseball throughout the year. We appreciate every time you guys beat the Yankees. So
I appreciate every time my Orioles do as well. It's always fun watching the Yankees lose. I think every AL East fan can relate to that a little bit. We like watching the Yankees lose.
Absolutely. All right. So I guess let's start with the loss that we just watched. Jack, maybe you didn't catch it, but the Blue Jays lost a heartbreaker. I don't know. Is that too strong of a word for that loss down in Houston? We won the series, but we did lose in extra innings in walk-off fashion. Takeaways from the game. Let's start with, I guess, Jordan Romano save streak comes to an end. Joel's blaming it on our 13th episode of Long Toss here. He, for whatever reason, he does not pitch well with runners on base. Am I the only one who has a long-term concern here?
I don't think it's an on base thing. I think he's better with a clean inning. Some pitchers like are fine with having a guy on base when they come in, but some aren't. And Romano just that ghost runner rule. it doesn't bode well for him in extra inning games.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I Phelps, the guy's lights out when he inherits runners, but it's just Romano. I don't know. I don't know. Some pitchers just don't do well with that.
Well, we saw it in the Gossman start as well, right? When Gossman went 8 in the third inning, or I guess technically 8 innings, but came out for the 9th, and then Romano had to come in with Trevor Story on first base. That one was really frustrating too, because that Trevor Story run didn't seem to matter at all. We were up 3, right? Like there's no reason to even change his delivery at all. Am I wrong about this? Like we should have just pitched full wind up at that point. I don't know. Joel, what do you think? Are you worried about Jordan Romano? Is he going to settle in? Is this something that you're going to grip the arm of your recliner a little extra tight when you see him come in and inherit runners?
No, well, it may be with inherited runners, but like the way that Montoya always sees him as is the 9th inning guy, right? Meaning he comes in save situations completely in a clean inning. And I'm sitting there and the first thing I thought when I'm seeing Romano come into this situation is, oh yeah, that's got to be tough to come in with that streak on the line. And you're put in that situation where you like to come out and you like to challenge the first batter at the plate, like you like to be really, really aggressive, but you're pitching, you're out of the windup, you're in the stretch, and you've got to worry about that runner, not so much stealing third, but it's in your mind. You're thinking about that as opposed to being aggressive and going out in there and executing your pitches. So it becomes an element of what you're thinking about. And it's tough. But then again, we're talking about a guy who just set the consecutive save streak for the team. So like, how worried can we be? He just did the best stretch ever that a closer has ever done in that situation for this team. So like that, I think bodes well more so than anything.
All right, you think we're just nitpicking at this point, Jen? What do you think?
He's leading the league in saves, right? Like he's already got.
He is.
Yeah,
8.
like
8.
I mean, the streak had to come to an end eventually. It just simply had to, right? And so, today was just a tough loss, and he's been used a fair amount recently, and I think it was just inevitable almost, right? And it's unfortunate that it happened in that manner because the Jays, actually had taken the lead, and there it was, and I'm not concerned. We'll see. It'll be interesting, and we'll talk about the bullpen later, but it will be interesting to see when the rosters contract again, and pitchers are sent down. It'll be interesting to see how the bullpen gets used from there.
Yeah, we are, I believe, a week away from that happening.
Mm-hmm.
So some interesting roster moves to be made for sure. I think maybe it is for the best that this streak kind of came to an end, because I was thinking that after the Gossman outing there, where Romano appeared and he'd allowed 0 earned runs all year. So I was thinking maybe that was a factor in him being concerned with the base runners at all, even with a 3-run lead, is maybe he was just overthinking it a little bit because he wanted to keep that perfect stat line going through the year. So I don't know. I think a little bit of it is good to, let's get this save streak over with. He can stop thinking about it, because I mean, at some point, you start approaching records, and he takes the Blue Jays one. I don't know. It's just, I don't want him worried about that. I just want him doing his thing and being the best he can be. The other takeaways from this series is Blue Jays are getting it done defensively, not necessarily with the bat. What's everyone feel about the identity of this team as we're now, 15, 16 games into the season?
Well, I mean, I don't want to say that we're a defensive specialist sort of team. I mean, am I happy that we're playing better than we did last year? Obviously. But I mean, we need Teo, we need Danny back, we need to start pounding on teams.
Mm-hmm.
We can't keep wasting runners in scoring position. We're an offensive team. That's the way this team is built. And like we have to like literally just pound on teams. Like, you know, we can't expect our bullpen to hold up and our defense to hold up through 162 games when every one of them's a one-run game. You know, like we're an offensive team, and I think I mean, offense is down all over the league, but I mean, we've just missed so many opportunities, like offensively, and I think we need to get back to that to really become that powerhouse that we think we're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, good point with Teoscar being out of the lineup. I mean, that certainly.
Oh, it changes the whole complexity of it. You know, we have Zach Collins batting cleanup when, you know, we have a silver slugger on the shelf. Like I mean, we really miss him, you know, and we miss Jano. Like we do, as much as people like to rip on him. Like, he was having a good season up until he got hurt. But I mean, just the flexibility of, you know, having him and Kirk, I don't know.
Well,
it throws off the whole thing, you know?
I will give a little bit of pushback on the Zach Collins, Danny Jansen situation. I agree with you about Teoscar, and I do think that we're feeling that. I think long term, I would obviously rather have Danny Jansen, but I think we do have to give Zach Collins a little bit of credit for what he's done.
Oh, he's
filling
great.
in admirably.
For sure.
Was it his third home run of the season this year? He's hitting close to 300.
Hitting over 300. He's hitting 303.
Yeah, so I don't think that that's necessarily sustainable. Thank you, Jack. But I do think that, like, if we're just looking at how this team has performed, I don't like the idea of him hitting 4, but that is the issue with Teoscar missing, right? And not having Teoscar hitting behind Vladdy impacts the pitches that Vladdy sees, right? So there is a concern, but I mean, what are we now? 10-6, 10-7?
Yeah. I mean, no real complaints, but I mean, we haven't even like come close to hitting that stride yet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We've won every series so far, and we are sitting here though and complaining about the offense. But like, I think we did tie the Yanks. But the point that was made about the league offense being down, like across the board, like this was where it was last year when Foreign Substance was still in the league. It's down there. The league OPS is in the 670s, 660s. Like, you can have an OPS plus of like 110 bat with a 690 OPS right now. Like, you can it's not the prettiest, but the fact that our issue last year was we had a huge run differential, and we didn't live up to that in the win-loss category. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, we should have been 8-9 wins more in win-losses based on our run differential. This year, we are barely above even on run differential, right? We're like a 5 +6, and we're winning games.
+3 going into today.
Yeah. So we're +2.
+2 now. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, we're winning the games that we weren't winning last year. Mm-hmm. The offense will come, right? Like, the offense will like, Bo's not going to hit 200 all year. Springer, when he's healthy and in the lineup, and Teoscar hitting 4th, and Lourdes, you know, like, we got a great lineup. It will come, but it's just great to know that when we are slightly struggling offensively, the team is able to pull out wins that we probably weren't winning last year.
Yeah, Adam, you mentioned, you know, how do we feel about this being the identity of the team? I don't think this is the identity of the team. I don't think we've seen their identity. To Al's point, this is meant to be an offense-first team, right? And, you know, several players are underperforming in that area. So we really haven't seen that offensive potential. What's great is that, you know, if you think about the old baseball adage, which is that defense doesn't slump, if this team has improved in their defense, right, that's something that should, you know, aside, obviously a player can have a bad game defensively, mm-hmm. but if they are improved over last year in terms of their defense, that ought to carry throughout the entire season, right? And that will contribute to those winning those one-run ball games, which we've already seen. And again, you know, defense and pitching is of the utmost importance in the playoffs as well, projecting, 140 plus games into the future right now. But, so from that point of view, I'm okay with them winning some games based on their defense rather than their offense right now. Pile those wins into the bank.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You mentioned Bo Bichette, and maybe let's just talk Bo Bichette for a bit, because Bo Bichette, I'm not worried about him long term, but like, he's struggling right now. There's no way to beat around that bush. He hasn't taken that developmental step forward. At least we haven't seen it so far this year. I think he kind of struggled this whole series against Houston. We saw it again today. What can he do to fix this? Is this Joel? Let's start with you, because I know you're a big Bo Bichette guy.
There's, I think, three things are going on right now in all of offense in baseball. One, I've never seen such bad umpiring. I haven't seen the calls ever be this bad. I think the delayed start to the season has especially, and not just the fact that the season was delayed, but the fact that the lockout prevented players from working out with their teams for 100 days. And then on top of that, I think it's not specifically for Bo, but for all of the league, it's a really weird thing to say next year the shift's going to go away. So don't try to like hit the ball to the opposite field, or don't try to like change your approach, because next year the defense is going to be totally different. And then that's going to be the future of the game. So really think more to that than trying to hit the shift. Don't worry about the shift this year, because it's gone, right? Like, I think that put a really weird mentality into a lot of hitters, that they're like, well, you know what? Next year I should be pull focused. And that just isn't a good mentality for hitting. So all of those three things put together, and then you're a young player who's looking to come out of the gates hot for a hot team that is looking to contend. I think you put all that on Bo's shoulders, and he's pressing, but it's still early. He goes 4 for 4 tomorrow, and he's batting .260.
I think right now with Bo Bichette, I mean, as an Orioles fan, I've watched him a lot. There's nothing to worry about with him right now. We're 16 games into the season, and I think the reason why, from what I've noticed from the outside looking in, why a lot of Blue Jays fans are worried about this early into the season is because the early wins are what killed them late in the season last year. So I think that worrying about Bo Bichette right now, I mean, is a perfectly reasonable worry, but like, he's going to be fine. I mean, we already know what he could do last year. I feel like he's going to make even more of a stride this year. But I think pitchers right now are figuring out how to pitch to him, and he's just going to have to adjust. And I think he'll be fine by most likely my next series. He's hitting .250 over the last 7 games, so he's not playing horribly, but he needs to cut down on the strikeouts, because he has 20 strikeouts right now in 69 at bats. So that's obviously, I don't know if it's going to be sustainable, but he just can't let it get to him right now. He'll pull it out.
Coming into today's game, he had seen 12 0-2 counts. So that was something I looked up during the game, right? I don't know how that compares to the rest of the league or anything like that, but it's seems high.
Yeah, that is a big number. I wonder how much of that has to do with the bad strike zones, and how much he's doing that to himself.
Right.
Al, what do you think about Bo?
I think, like, looking at his swing, he's extending too much. It's going too long of a swing. You know, he needs to keep it a little bit tighter. And the 0-2 thing is just, I mean, I joked about it on Twitter the other day. You know, like, don't look now, but you know, Bo Bichette has another immediate 0-2 count, and I'm not sure it's the umpiring. Like, he is up there, like, hacking away. Yeah, and like, his bat speed seems a little bit slower this year. I don't know what it is, but like, guys are putting like 94-mile-an-hour fastballs past him, and he's late on them. And
his swing's getting long. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, like, that's not umpiring. That's just, I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't know how he would take it. I mean, I'm sure Charlie would be great with it, but I think he needs a bench day just to sit back and kind of watch the game and like use it as a reset. It's not like it's not a benching because his performance isn't where it needs to be. It's more of a, hey man, like sit back and just take a look at what these guys are doing, good and bad, and maybe go from there. Some days a day off, sometimes a day off isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, what I wonder with Bo is, because he's struggling offensively and defensively, and we often make that connection that, right, when you're struggling at the plate, it impacts your glove and vice versa. What do you think is the instigator in this situation? Is it his glove that's impacting, or I guess his arm maybe is a better word? I guess it's kind of both right now at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's not his glove. Like, his range has been good. I mean, he kind of botched a catch today with the glove, but it's his arm. Like he is just. I was talking to a guy the other day about it, and like I was saying, like, Bo hasn't like airmailed a ball in a while. Like, he's been looking sharp, and then like basically before I got the words out of my mouth, he launches one over Vladdy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's just gripping the ball too tight and gripping the bat too tight, but I mean, he needs to just like look at some tape from last year when he was a top 5, top 10 shortstop.
Well, I think last year the difference was we had Marcus Semien, and I think that we're maybe starting to feel the impact of that loss. I mean, I don't want to undervalue Matt Chapman. I think Chapman has been a blessing at third base. We've seen almost twice a game where he's making a play that we never could have counted on from Espinal last year or from anyone at third base last year. So Chapman has definitely like been a contributor. But I think maybe just in terms of like personality wise, we're starting to see that the kind of leader Chapman is and the kind of leader that Marcus Semien was, I feel like we're starting to see that sort of play out. Like, I don't see Chapman being the kind of guy who's going over to Bo between innings and just helping him get out of his own head the way I felt like was happening with Marcus Semien. Marcus Semien was just such a presence on that team.
He was the dad.
And for some reason, Chapman isn't that. And I can't quite put my finger on it. Am I wrong about this though, Jen? I see you nodding along. Are you agreeing?
Honestly, I don't know, because having been in the clubhouse just a little tiny bit, I think what happens behind closed doors, we don't necessarily have any idea, unless Sportsnet does a little in-game feature on it, right? Mm-hmm. But I have absolutely no idea whether or not Chapman is taking Bo aside. I mean, they keep talking about how, the positioning of Chapman versus Bo and how Chapman has helped Bo. But when does that sort of mentoring take place? I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions there, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, you're better than I am, because I'm all over the snap to quick judgment here. But
I think when you watch Chapman play, because I've liked watching him in Oakland for a while, he didn't seem like the mentoring type. He seemed like the type that was a little bit cocky from what I've watched and from what I've heard. Mm-hmm. He's a little bit cocky, and he kind of has a right to be when you have the glove that he has at third base. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to be the presence that Marcus Semien was at second base, though. I don't think he'll be the kind to pull someone aside and say, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. I think he's more of the hype man than the cool, calm, and relaxed, here, let me show you what you did wrong. He's more of like the person that's going to bring you up rather than show you what's actually going on that's wrong. I feel like, as a former baseball player, that's just what I saw in him. Yeah. I could be wrong.
I was just gonna. What I think is Chapman makes Bo better in the hole, right? So he brings that, right? He brings that element. I don't really think that, like, don't get me wrong, I've seen Bo scuffle on a few plays, but he's made plays this year that have been rather impressive. Yes. Like really, really impressive plays, really athletic plays. Remember, like, I have this concept of a shortstop being glued into his position. and having the range from that specific position. But when you're seeing balls that are hit up the middle and you don't know how that infield is shifted, you have to wait till the person makes the play for you to be like, oh, that's Bo who's making that play. Oh, that's Espinal making that play. Because positionally, these guys are covering so much more of the field than they did 10, 15 years ago. They were in the static position, moving left to right, and you can cover what you cover. But you see Bo making plays, whatever the shift may be, he may be the third baseman in some situation if you move Chapman to the outfield, or if you it's usually Chapman who's staying on the third base side, but you see Bo over in second base. Like, what these players are nowadays are these hybrid infielders, right? As long as the shift still exists, your position is literally, you're making throws from second base, you're making them way deep in the hole in a shifted shortstop position. So it's going to be interesting to see what Bo is from a specific starting point next year, how his range compares to somebody who is put in a position by a computer, right? Like, we have to, the idea of all these position players and their defense and what they do is going to be based on range, and range is not computer based anymore next year. So that's going to be a really huge jump to see what a player really is and what he brings and the players around him too, because you can't just go stand where the ball is going to go anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, a lot of optimism for next year, but that still doesn't quite get us out of this hole we're in right now. I know, Al, you mentioned the idea of Charlie pulling him aside and sitting him down for a game, not necessarily as a punishment, right? But as a
not at all.
Just take a breather and get your head right.
Yeah.
Here's my next question, because I've honestly been pretty impressed with Montoyo this year so far. With the lack of Simeon, with the lack of some real strong veteran presence, maybe the best we have right now is George Springer. But I don't know who in the clubhouse has the role of pulling a Bo Bichette aside or pulling a Vladdy aside. Like, at some point in their career, whether it's right now or not for Bo, obviously, like, we're overreacting to a very small sample size, right? But just to speculate, if this struggle continues, right, and we're into May, into June, and let's just say Bo Bichette is struggling, where does that come from in the clubhouse? Like, who is the guy or gal that is going to have the authority, really, to question Bo or Vlad or one of these kids? Because that's kind of what I worry about with Montoyo, is I don't think that he's the guy to do it. And I don't know who on the roster is the guy to do it at this point.
I think it's Springer.
I was going to say
think it's absolutely
Springer.
Yeah. He's got the World Series pedigree. He's won the World Series MVP, and he doesn't seem to belong to any specific niche group on that bench. Like, he can go and play with Lourdes Gurriel's hair and then go talk to Bo and then go talk to Santiago Espinal and go talk to anybody. Like, it seems like he has, he was talking to Heineman, on the dugout today. So it's just like, he'll talk to anybody. He seems really like a guy that's easy to talk to. And it's just like, and for what we're aspiring to do, he's the one who's achieved it. So it's like, you got to respect that opinion, right? Because he's got the ring.
I would say yes about Springer. He absolutely has the resume, but I don't know if he's the guy that would actually do it. Like, I don't know if he has the I'm putting my foot down, we're turning this car around kind of personality. Like, I don't know. I do worry about that.
Maybe he couldn't really do it last year because he couldn't, like, be the player on the field to lead by example. Mm-hmm. But if he's healthy this year, he plays 145 games. I think he's also out there like Gurriel's making a play, and I see Springer wrapping his arms around him, and I think he is that type of guy. But I think it comes as much as being on the field and being able to be that presence there, and then and with the bat as well, right? Like, he hits a home run and he comes, he's in the leadoff spot, Bo's right behind him. George hits a home run, comes around and says, hey, like he's got some words of advice. It's the perfect guy to be following, Bo, if he's following Springer, like you've got this veteran in front of you having great at bats. That's what Springer does, great career on base percentage. So I really think, Springer's not the infielder who can tell you about the defense, but you do have a platinum glove that's leading by example right next to you as well. So I think those two things, like there's leadership for Bo to latch onto. There is some.
So, I mean, we talk a lot about the personality change that's gone on between the last playoff team the Blue Jays had with the Josh Donaldson and the Jose Batistas and stuff like that, and just the different attitude that's coming out of this dugout. It is all fun and games, and we love to see it, but I guess that's what I keep coming back to is that at some point, like, where is this team going to need to, whether it's this year, whether it's 2-3 years from now, but like, is that a concern that anybody else, or is it just me that this is just going to be a fun, loving group, and if we get stormy seas, we're just going to laugh our way through it and come out on the other side? Is that the plan?
Well, I think, this is Vlad's team. Like, yeah, he's only really put up one big season, but this is his team. And this is going to be his team for 15 years. So, it's going to be on his shoulders to eventually be that leader, that clubhouse guy. And like, yeah, in the dugout, he's great and he's fun and all of that. But if he wants to be one of the great players, it's going to fall on his shoulders. And you don't want to throw that kind of pressure on a kid his age, but I think he can handle it. And I think some of the coaching staff, and I'm sure they've addressed this. I'm sure they have said, hey man, like, this is your team. You need to, be a leader for these players, whether it's players younger than him, players older than him. Vlad's the captain. As he goes, the Jays go.
I was going to say, it's not too much of a stretch to say Vladdy may already be the clubhouse presence that they desperately need. And I think that, honestly, when I look back at the 2015 and 2016 Blue Jays, unfortunately, as an Orioles fan, a little bit PTSD there, but I see a huge difference in the clubhouse because there's no guy that's like Jose Bautista who's trying to start a fight with everyone, honestly, or Josh Donaldson who's going to wear his emotions on his sleeve. I don't really see that with anyone on the Blue Jays. I see everyone having fun, and when you're having fun, you're winning games. And I feel like if you can continue to have a positive attitude, like with the Blue Jays that we're seeing right now, I think they're going to be just fine. I don't see many similarities between them to the Blue Jays of the mid-2010s. I just don't see it, and I feel like that's for the best, honestly.
Jen, looks like you want to jump in. I just want to comment on that. Look, if you're winning, you're having fun, but if you're having fun, you're winning, was the line. The opposite is also true, right? Like when you're losing, it's hard to have fun. But Jen, do you want to go from there?
And that 2015 team on the field often looked like they were having a ton of fun, but behind closed doors, a lot of those guys didn't exactly like each other. Like, let's just say that, right? And, if things weren't going well, I would say that dynamic wasn't exactly, necessarily the best one to be a part of. These current players seem to actually, at least that core seems to genuinely like each other. And I think when you have the talent plus that buy-in of, we're a team, we're friends, we're this, we're that, I think the two combined can be really strong. And I agree. I do think Vlad this is his team. And, back to the point of who might take Bo aside, it might very well be Vlad because they've come up together, right? They both have, the pedigree with their fathers, right? Like they're not new to baseball. And I think Vlad very well could be the one to take Bo aside and say, like, look, man, we got to clean this up. How are we going to figure this out? Because he's the dude that sat on that bench the last game of last season and watched things play out on the Jumbotron, right? Everybody else was back in that clubhouse. It was Vlad sitting out there, and I think he is incredibly invested in this team and those around him.
I feel like he's much more wise for his age than people really give him credit for
I
at this point
agree.
in his career. I feel like this is already his team on it. Like what Al said, I feel like this is his team. I feel like he is the clubhouse leader at age, 22, 23? Like he's 2 years older than me. And he's doing what like Josh Donaldson and Jose Bautista and in many ways Marcus Stroman had to do for the mid-2010 Blue Jays as well. And he's doing it at his age. So this is very much his team. I think he's that clubhouse leader along with George Springer, who's he's probably giving George Springer advice, honestly, on how to run the team. I feel like it's possible.
I was going to say about Vladdy. Remember, he was able to cut off Montoya on going to Gosman about coming out in the ninth inning. Right? He was able to say, "Hey, stop it! Stop talking to him. You don't have any control here. He's going out in the ninth. He's going after that complete game." So that's some flexing on a managerial level, right?
That is a good point.
That's what leaders do. Like, I mean, I was going to mention that same thing. Like, that's what leaders do, and he is, whether he wants to be or not, he's the leader of this team.
Yeah. All right. Let's just talk one more thing on Bo's struggles. Do you think there's a chance he cuts his hair this year? Am I crazy to think this? Because here's my reasoning, and then I'll throw to Joel because I know Joel's got some hot takes here. Joel, when we had interviewed Danny Jansen, your question specifically was about him shaving mid-game.
Yes.
When we talked to him, his answer was basically like he's superstitious, and it was just this kind of a thing, right? Like for the obvious reasons. That last at bat didn't go well. I'm shaving off my mustache. Next one, RBI single. Great, right? What we started to see from Bo Bichette, and I've never seen this before, correct me if I'm wrong, if I've missed one, let me know, but he had his hair up yesterday.
Yeah, I was so scared. I was like, what? Did he cut it?
So, I mean, like...
I didn't even recognize him, man.
I think there's a little bit of an acknowledgement here that, like, look, I don't know what's going on, like, whether it's my bat that's struggling, affecting my arm, or my arm struggling, affecting my bat, whatever the case might be. I do feel like he's starting to experiment, and I mean, we all know pro athletes and baseball players in general are pretty stupid-stitious, and
he's got to wait till after the bobblehead day.
I was just about to say that he's got to keep the hair till the bobblehead day, and then
like Rogers has told him, you need to keep that
under
hair.
Contract.
We bought 20,000 of these stupid bobbleheads. You're keeping your hair until at least next week. So,
oh man,
that's why it's probably going up in the bun. Honestly, that's why it's been tucked. You know, it's the fake cut job. That's really funny if that's the truth, and he's holding back on cutting it because of the bobblehead.
I don't know. Is it crazy to think that he cuts his hair though? Like if he continues to struggle, we get past bobblehead day, and then he goes, you know what? I'm gonna do the mohawk or whatever that George Springer has, or this or that, right? Like.
That would be scary to see that, honestly.
I mean, it's part of his brand at this point, right? Like,
right. It's a part of his gimmick.
As much as we love Bob Ross,
he's got the Bo flow. Right? He's got it. He's got it going. I don't see why. I mean, then again, I feel like maybe he'll pull the way that Charlie Blackmon's been pulling it in Colorado. Just keep it growing, and you'll have more and more success. Who knows? The longer the beard gets for Blackmon, the more success you got. Maybe that'll be it for Bo. The longer the hair gets, you'll get more successful.
Maybe.
I will make one prediction about Bo's hair.
All right.
If he cuts it, every 18 to 25-year-old female in Canada will break down in tears because like they'll revolt if he cuts his hair.
We'll see. I mean, Justin Bieber cut his hair eventually, right? Like, I don't know. Is he? I don't know. Like at some point, he's got to cut his hair, right?
Bieber.
Like he's not going to just have the flow when he's 38 years old.
And I did not do any research on this subject at all. I don't know what you're saying.
I didn't either, but I just had flashbacks to my childhood that I did not want to see.
All right. Well, enough Justin Bieber. We did mention the defense and how well that defense was looking today. We did have a comment here from the YouTube chat. So they were watching the Astros broadcast, and the Houston's broadcast seemed to really praise our outfield defense. I have some good comments. I have some bad comments. Let's start with all of that on the same play with Lourdes Gurriel from today. I mean, anything in the air, I have confidence in him, as long as it's high enough for him to get to. But as soon as it touches grass, it's like, ooh, anything could happen, right? And we saw that today. Was it the 9th inning that happened? I think it was the 9th inning. Or was it the 8th?
I think it was 8. Yeah.
in any case, I think it was the 9th, but it was Brantley hit a short line drive to left field. Gurriel Jr. comes sliding in to make the scoop and, of course, doesn't quite get there. It bounces past him all the way to the corner. But what does he do? He comes up throwing and guns him out at third. I mean, Joel, I was texting you before the show. Is that a highlight that he's submitting for his Gold Glove nomination or not? Because I really don't know.
I remember him. I remember him last year in Houston, like throwing out Miles Straw on sac fly attempts. Like I think he got him twice trying to take home. And Miles Straw is one of the fastest guys in the league, and he'd get him by like 3 steps at home. And now this play, it's just like, you know, what is it? Is it him against Yuli? Is it like a one-upsmanship thing going on there? Because Yuli played pretty well today too, right? Yeah. I love watching those two brothers like come together, but like for some reason, Lourdes in Houston, his arm is just at another level, and he makes. And what was really funny about that play is really was casual getting back to that ball. You know, he botched it, and he's like, oh, he puts his head down, and he's, you know, it doesn't seem like there's that much, you know, vigor in his step, and then turns and just one hopper. But let's not undersell Chapman's straddle tag thing there, where he comes out, takes the ball, and makes Brantley go through his legs on the slide. Like that was some. That's
why he's a platinum glove. Like,
yeah, it's like you can't. How do you add war to that tag, right? Like that tag was a next level tag. That was an amazing play. It was really, because it was such a roller coaster of like you're it happens and then it takes 15 seconds for him to get the ball and you're just like, oh no, runner in third, less than one. Nope. He got him.
That is the Lourdes Gurriel Jr. experience.
Yes. It is 100%.
Right? That's exactly what we saw it all in one play, just wrapped up with a little bow on it. So
that's exactly it.
You take the good with the bad, I guess.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It was quintessential Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I don't know. When I saw that ball bounce past him, though, I thought the game was over. Like I thought that might be an inside the park home run, because it was quite shallow. So I thought, okay, it's going all the way back to the wall. He's got a long run ahead of him, but he got there. All right. Defensively, we all love Chapman. Bo's not going anywhere, for better or for worse. I mean, I think some of us are believers defensively in him. Some of us are not. We don't have to get into that today. We do have some question marks on this team. Is second base one of them, or is this Espinal's job now? Al, you want to step in here?
Yeah, this isn't up for discussion. He has earned that spot. He's our second baseman. You know, I think if he keeps this up, I haven't crunched the numbers, but like I think he could be a 4 to 5 WAR guy, 4.2, 4.3 WAR guy. For a month of Steve Pearce, we got a hell of a player. He's been everything we could have asked for and more this year. Yeah. Everybody was worried, like, okay, is it going to be him? Is it going to be Cavan? Cavan has a better on base and blah, blah, blah. And Espinal's just like, nah, I'm taking it. It's mine. Mm-hmm. Like, this is my job. This is my spot. And yeah, like there's nobody that's going to surpass him this season.
Joel, do you want to step in there? Thoughts on Espinal in second?
I just think that this, like, he's changed his hitting approach to being a 300 on base, 750, 730 OPS guy, right? Like that's what he was. Not 300 on base, 300 batting average. He batted 300 last, 310. Now his approach at the plate is this, like, left center field gap power. He's got home run power now, and he's just ripping the ball off the wall, and it's the production that produces at the bottom of this lineup is really nice. And then he's capable of playing all three infield positions very well. Bo needs a day off. You slot him in a shortstop, right? Second base, Chapman needs a day off. You throw him over at third, and you're happy. So you're getting so much out of him, and the fact that he looks at his weaknesses in the offseason and addresses them in a very noticeable fashion. right? Like what was missing from his game? Power. Well, is power missing from his game now? It's not. He has a power element to his game. And so it's amazing to be able to see a guy who can play 3 solid defensive positions on the infield change his hitting approach. And yeah, we thought before Chapman was on the team that he was our starting third baseman. We just got the position wrong. He's our starting second baseman.
Jen, do you have thoughts on Espinal as our second baseman? And maybe if you want to just expand on the idea, talk about Cavan Biggio and where does he fit with this team if Espinal is just our everyday second baseman at this point?
I was not convinced that Biggio was a starter on this team during the offseason. And I saw people on Twitter referencing Keith Law being right about Cavan Biggio. And I interviewed him. I asked Keith Law that question. Where do you see Cavan Biggio fitting into this team, or do you see him fitting into this team? And Keith Law said straight up, no. He does not fit into this team. This team is sort of too good for what Cavan brings to the table. And that was sort of my position as well. And I've stuck by that, all through the off season and into this season, and different people telling me, keep the faith and in Cavan, have faith. This is not a faith-based exercise, Yeah. This is the eye test. This is what I'm seeing on the field. This is what I'm seeing in the statistics. And, I'll be honest, I wasn't convinced that Espinal should be the everyday second baseman. That was before I knew he had put on 15 pounds of muscle in the off season, right? That was before I knew he was going to just barrel up the ball and do what he's doing. So, to see him take that next step, I think, I'm quite satisfied with Espinal being the second baseman.
So, and you're questioning whether or not Biggio even has a role on this team at this point.
Obviously he has valuable tools. There's no doubt about the fact that he has valuable tools. The fact that he can move around the field to give different guys a day off is incredibly valuable. If he can hit for contact, that's incredibly valuable, but we're not seeing that. And I think a team that is built on offense, when it's clicking on all cylinders, I just don't see him fitting into that, not on an everyday basis anyways. I think he could be a trade chip, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big Biggio defender throughout all of last season. I really wanted to see him get everyday reps as a healthy second baseman before we made an evaluation on him, because I really want to believe in Biggio, but I mean, you talk defensive versatility. Well, Joel was just describing exactly all the different options that we have with Espinal, right? And guess what? I mean, I have more confidence at Espinal giving Bo Bichette a day off than I do with Biggio giving Bichette a day off, right? I'd say the same thing for Chapman. In the outfield, that's a question mark. I haven't seen Espinal out there, right? Biggio is a competent fourth outfielder. I would say that. I like him in the outfield more than I like Tapia, but that's a whole other topic we can get into. I think Biggio needs to go down to AAA when this roster contracts. He's not getting enough at-bats to get in any sort of a rhythm. I mean, if we look at his stats here quickly, Cavan Biggio through the first 17 games here has 21 at-bats, 26 plate appearances. Whereas a guy who's an everyday player, like, what's that, sorry, Jack?
I'm sorry, he struck out in like 10 of them, I'm pretty sure, so that's a big question mark for him as well.
Yeah, well, he's a guy that's really struggling with this expanded loosey-goosey strike zone too, right? Because, I mean, that's been his his best asset probably, is his knowledge and competent comfortability with what a strike is and not. I can't see him staying on this team past May 1st when the rosters contract. I can't see it. I think he needs to go down to AAA and get his everyday at bats in, and then I don't know at what point they bring him back up if they do. I don't know. Al, do you want to
Maybe
jump
they
in
don't.
here?
Yeah. Maybe they don't. He does. He's never going to break out of. I mean, if people want to call it a slump, they can call it a slump. But
It's not.
it's not. It's not. It's been an issue for a year and a half. I mean, yeah, he was hurt a lot last year, but this year he looks lost at the plate. Like, he looks absolutely lost. And that was the one thing that you never worried about with Cavan, was that he never looked lost. You know, he would take a walk, he would lean into one and get clunked for a base, but he isn't. And he has defensive versatility, but I mean, it's average defensive versatility. Like, if I want, an infielder that can jump around, I want one like Espinal that plays well. You can put him in and you don't worry about him. And the same for an outfield spot. Like, he's not going to be a defensive specialist in the outfield. No. You have Zimmer. Zimmer is going to come in.
Exactly.
He's going to come in and play those tight games. You're not putting Cavan out there. So for a team with World Series aspirations, you hate to say it, he seems like a wonderful guy, but he's not good enough for this team. So either you send him down to the minors, hopefully he bumps up some of that trade value, because he's got very little right now, very little trade value.
We just played Houston. He's got the family ties to Houston. Is that maybe the team that we could foist him to? Does his dad talk the Astros into trading for?
Yeah, but where's he going to play? I mean, they got Yuli. They got, they got who's at second? Oh, the Altuve. He's not getting rid of him. Jeremy Pena, like, look what he did today.
He's not going anywhere for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, like, he's got nowhere to go in Houston.
He's traded to a team that has an injury.
Yeah, that's where he's getting traded to.
You could see, weirdly, like, he plays to Oakland's type of baseball.
I was just thinking the same thing, actually. I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Oakland's on base, focus, and the fact that they don't care what position you play, as long as you can play a position in Oakland. Like, so that might be a spot if you're looking for a trade location.
So let's talk Oakland then. In a Cavan Biggio, Alejandro Kirk package, what do we get back from Oakland? Do they have anything left? Montas?
Frankie Montas.
Yeah, Frankie Montas.
I was thinking Montas, but you'd probably have to add another piece to that trade as well.
We probably have to throw a pitching prospect or something in there too, right? Like an Adam Kloffenstein or a CJ Van Eyck or something.
Because Oakland's going to put a huge price tag on him, because he's their last big trade piece that they have. Because they traded everyone else, but they left him. So I almost feel bad for Montas. He has no one else left on that team because everyone else got traded.
Well, I could tell you what, Cavan Biggio isn't getting a mega deal, so maybe that's the perfect fit in Oakland. All right. Man, it's so depressing because I really wanted to believe in Cavan Biggio, but I'm having a hard time defending him at this point. I mean,
they're almost giving Gosuke Katoh those opportunities now. They're trying to see if he can be that on-base guy with a little bit of, he's getting Cavan's at bats. So
yeah, I mean, there was a couple times in that Red Sox series where it felt like this, like late in the game where we needed a left-handed bat, like this was the perfect opportunity to get Cavan into the game, and he still wasn't. Like, they pinch hit for someone else instead, and I do wonder, has he run out of rope with this team? And that might be the case. I don't know.
I think AAA would be a great place for him to go, just to get some consistent at bats. Because, like you said before, he's not getting any at bats right now, so he has no way of getting a rhythm. So it's just going to continue to get worse. Because if they're going to put him in pinch hit situations, like what mojo does he have? He doesn't have it if he's just sitting on the bench. He's not getting any at bats. So if he starts in AAA and is good by, let's say, June, do you think he comes back up at some point and plays another bench role?
I mean, I guess that's it, right? In theory, is that he goes down to AAA, figures out his swing, or at least gets comfortable again swinging the bat, and he's a extra piece, like an extra piece of depth in case of bad tacos from one of our position players. Because I mean, we don't really want to get rid of him and then see Bichette go down for an extended period of time. And now it is like, okay, well, we've got Espinal and Cateau as our middle infielders. Like, nobody's going to feel good about that, right? But I don't know. Espinal and Biggio as middle infielders. I mean, obviously, it's still a step down from having Bichette out there, but like, I'd be all right with that for a chunk of time. So maybe he does just got to go down, sort it out, and then just wait for an opening. But I don't know. It's just so weird to be like the ceiling best case scenario for Biggio is like a 240 batting average who can give everybody a day off. Like, I don't know. It's sure an unsexy idea at this point. And yeah, with Espinal's versatility, I don't know how to keep arguing that. But let's move on because we spent enough time on Biggio. We got the Red Sox coming up to Toronto for 4 games, or a portion of the Red Sox. I know Tanner Houck, I can never say his name. Houck is not allowed in Canada. We're wagging our fingers at him and saying you're not allowed in here. So
he's not vaccinated?
I can't comment on that, but I know he's not allowed in Canada. So I mean,
I didn't know that. That's huge for the Red Sox. That's huge.
Didn't Cora say there was 3 players?
Yeah, I don't think we know who they are yet. I mean,
we know
we know Tanner is one of them.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's huge. That's a huge loss for the Red Sox considering how good he's projected to be. Yeah. One of the best sliders in the game.
So I mean, that's good. I'm kind of exhausted on this whole subject though of players not being vaccinated, not coming to Canada, whether it's an advantage for the Blue Jays or not. I mean, I think Charlie Montoyo summed it up best, right? Like, we didn't get to play. We had 3 home stadiums last year. Nobody seemed to care, so fuck off, essentially, right? Yeah.
We played a home game in Anaheim.
One home game in Anaheim, right? I'm not counting that one. Home opener in Anaheim. Yeah, I mean, I'm over it. I keep getting these updates every time. Oh, Oakland has added these 3 guys to the restricted list, and such and such isn't coming to Toronto. What's that, Al?
So it was Kirby Snead. Who cares?
Kirby Snead was one of them. So there was
Tanner Houck that's a problem for Boston.
It is.
That is a major problem for Boston.
I don't know. You guys go ahead and talk. I don't want to even be involved in this conversation.
Tanner Houck
I'm so exhausted by it. So go ahead.
Tanner Houck, apart from Vladdy, is probably their second best starting pitcher right now with Sale on the show.
No, he absolutely is.
That's a big issue for Boston. When you can't have and it's not even a 3-game series where you can kind of hide them. It's a 4-game series. You know, you need your top guys in there, and you know, not having Houck, that's basically throwing a game to the Jays. So I'll take it. You know, I don't care.
Yeah, so I guess
it's a huge loss for Boston.
Let's talk expectations then for this series against the Red Sox. It is 4. I know we wanted 3 out of 4 before. Now with Houck missing, are we wanting a clean sweep? Is that the
3 out of 4?
3 out of 4 is still good.
I'd say 3 out of 4 is a pretty safe bet, because if you look at who the Red Sox are throwing, I mean, what game 1 is against who? It's against Nathan Eovaldi, so that'll be a tough one with Jose Barrios. He's been struggling a little bit. Like, let's hope he doesn't, because I do love Barrios. I loved watching him in Minnesota, so I hope he doesn't continue to struggle. But if he does, I think that's Boston's game to take. And then what? You have Michael Wacha next, I think.
It's Pivetta versus Gossman
I'm sorry.
in Game 2. And then we got Wacha versus Stripling in Game 3. And then it's a TBD versus Manoah in Game 4.
That would have been Houck's start.
That would have been Houck.
That would have been his start. So what was it? Is it Eovaldi again? I doubt it is again.
That's going to be way too short. That would either
I
be
figured.
A bullpen day.
You're looking like a bullpen.
It's probably a bullpen day. That's right. Yeah, I'd say probably 3 out of 4. I mean, Pivetta, he's been struggling. I don't think he'll pitch well. Gosman, loved watching him as an Oriole, so I loved what he's been doing in Toronto. So hopefully he can continue to pitch well. I think that's an easy 3 out of 4 for the series.
Which is like, what were your guys' expectations out of the first 30 games of the season? Right? Like, where did we want to sit after this major streak of games where we only have 1 day off, right?
Yeah,
if we come out of
15
that,
was kind of the.
Yeah, but we're looking to. If we can,
I wanted 5 games above 500.
Yeah, I said 18 and 12. So pretty close.
Well, we're on pace for that. We take 3 out of 4, and we're all well on our way to 18 wins in our first 30 games. So let's, despite the offense struggling.
Sorry to cut you off, Joel, but our best hitter potentially is on the IL in Danny Jansen.
Danny Jansen.
I know you guys thought I was going Teoscar Hernandez, but I did the old switcheroo.
I knew.
I thought Vladdy went on the IL today. I was going to say, wait, did I miss something? What?
No. Yeah, so I guess 3 out of 4 versus the Red Sox. We just keep this strategy of just win every series is the plan, right? That gets us to 108 wins, so we'll take it.
The Red Sox fans that I follow on Twitter were complaining today about their anemic offense, right? They were slashing 227, 277, 354 with a weighted runs created plus of 84.
Yeah,
coming in
good.
That's not good. So, take that with the pitching, and I don't see why the Jays can't take 3 out of 4 unless they beat themselves, so to speak.
Well, I think that's a good point about the anemic offense from the Red Sox fans, because we're seeing it in New York as well. I mean, so right off the top of the show, we were touching on the new identity of the Blue Jays being defensive and not scoring any runs, but we still have the second most runs in the AL East. We're well ahead of the Yankees and the Red Sox. So yeah, for as much as this offense has been down, I mean, it could be a lot worse than it is for we're teams. So
we're complaining about the offense that we're getting from Kevin Biggio for $670,000 a year or whatever he makes, and they're getting similar offense from Trevor Story for 28 million, 30 million a season. So there's 2 different places to be at there.
I mean, with the Red Sox offense, I'm looking at the players that they'll be throwing against the Red Sox. I'm looking at the Pivetta versus Gausman matchup right now, and there are so many batting averages that start with 1 or 0 that it's almost scary. Like when you have Jackie Bradley Jr. starting in right field, who's at least like a league average defender in right field because he's a bit older and he's not providing anything offensively. If you have that starting in a Boston Red Sox lineup, you have full reason to worry.
Yeah.
I think it's quite safe to say. And that's no knock on Bradley, because I do love him. As an Orioles fan, I don't love any Red Sox, but him, he's fine. That's more than enough reason to be concerned, because most of their lineup doesn't look good, and Gausman needs to. I'm looking at Gausman specifically because I miss him as an Oriole badly. He's gonna deal.
Is JD Martinez on the IL? Because I saw the other night that he looked like he tweaked his hamstring or something, and he came out of the game.
I remember that.
Did he go on the IL?
I don't think so.
I can check real quick.
But but I mean, like the rest of the team has been struggling, and I don't know.
He didn't play today.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he's on the IL.
Yeah, he's day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he doesn't need his legs anyway, so. So I mean, if his arms work, he should be able to be all right,
All right, so let's take this then. We've got a Red Sox team limping into Toronto, right? They're without Houck, potentially without Martinez. Their offense is anemic. What if we go 2-2? How disappointed is that going to be? We went 2-2 against the Yankees. Like, if we're looking at this schedule, Manoah versus a bullpen day, we should win that, right? We can all agree that should be a win.
Mm-hmm.
Gausman versus Pivetta should be a win. But then if we're giving them Eovaldi versus Barrios, and then in our essentially bullpen day with Stripling versus Waka, what if they win that one? What if it's a 2-2 series? I don't know. I'm gonna be pretty disappointed in that, if I'm being completely honest.
I'm okay with that. If we go 500 against the Yankees, Boston, and the Rays, and then just pound on the Orioles and pound on like every other weak team in the other divisions, like we should still be all right. I mean, would I love to sweep the Red Sox? Of course I would. But 2-2 in April, I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be disappointed.
Look, I agree with the philosophy of go 500 against the contenders and then get fat on the bad teams. But like 2-1 against Oakland isn't going to cut it. Like that.
No,
those are the teams that we need to be like spanking, and we're not doing it. I mean, whatever. We had one series against them, but like We went 2-1 against the Rangers. We went 2-1 against the Oakland Athletics. At some point, just going 2-1 against the Cleveland Guardians and the Baltimore Orioles, that's going to get tiresome real quick if we're only going 500 against the Red Sox and Yankees, because all of a sudden 500 turns into slightly below 500, right? Like you lose a series here and there. I don't know. It's just we're playing with fire. This team should be good, though. This team should be good. All right, let's talk bullpen dominance here. We saw a good start from the bullpen last year, and then we all know how that, I don't want to say ended, because it ended well, but how it middled. It struggled in May. It struggled in late April, I believe, before we got Simber and Richards to really settle the ship. But so far, bullpen dominance, combined 2.83 ERA. They've really bailed us out of some bad starts early. I mean, I think with the exception of Manoah, who goes 6 all the time, and I think that's why his jersey number is 6 at this point. Everybody else is like liable to throw up one inning of work, and now we got to figure it out, right? I don't think between our other 4 starters, I don't know if I feel comfortable in anybody really giving us a long game at this point.
Gosman's looking all right.
I was going to say, Gosman looks pretty good. I mean, he's going to have one bad start once in a while. I mean, as an Oriole, usually it's 3 bad starts out of his 5, you know? But, I mean...
Was it the first start of the year for Gosman that was only 2 innings?
I think so, yes.
Okay. So it's still a bad first impression on me. I will say Gosman's probably pretty good. I like Gosman.
You're going to love him. I promise. Right. You're going to love him.
All right, I like that. But how happy are we with this bullpen? It looks really good right now. Is this sustainable?
No, I don't think so.
Why do you say that, Jack?
Well, the reason why I say that is because, I mean, like with guys like Jordan Romano, he's gonna be great this year. Advanced metrics love him. I use advanced metrics quite a bit when I evaluate players. They loved him last year. They're gonna love him again this year. Simber, he defies all metrics, so he's gonna be great again this year. Julian Merriweather, I mean, I feel like he's going to be the biggest question mark, or either the biggest question mark or the biggest wild card, in the sense that he's going to be the most underrated arm in this bullpen, or he's going to be out by July, I feel like. And with any bullpen success, obviously there's going to be a little bit downside, at least once in a while. But overall, I don't think that it's going to be sustainable to have a great bullpen game every single night. Obviously, I don't think that's the expectation, but I think they're going to come back down to earth at some point. If I'm a Blue Jays fan, I hope it's not anytime soon, but it's going to happen at some point. So that's why I'd say it's not sustainable. But if you have a combination of Romano, Simber, Garcia, and Tim Meza pitching well every night, I think there's something to complain about there.
Jen, how are you feeling about this bullpen?
I mean, right now, if you look statistically, they're in a similar position to March, April of last season, right? And it was May when the wheels really fell off. So it will depend on a couple of things, right? It'll depend on, who ends up getting sent down. It'll end up on how deep into games the starters can go. It will depend on whether or not, and this is a little bit further in down the road, but does Pearson come back and what does he look like out of the bull? I'm assuming he'll come out of the bullpen, to be honest. And how does that look? And does he stay healthy? So it's difficult. It's difficult to say right now. I don't think, I don't know that this is sustainable, what they're doing. It certainly wasn't last season, but I think they have better options than they did last season.
Yeah, I mean, have to agree with you there. For me, I know Jack mentioned you mentioned Merriweather being the biggest question mark. For me, it is Trent Thornton. It is, where did this version of Trent Thornton come from? Because he was not anybody we wanted to see be given the ball. But, I mean, through the first 3 weeks, I feel like on multiple occasions he's gone 2 innings or more and has functioned like as well as you could ever ask for from Trent Thornton. So I do worry about Trent Thornton a little bit in terms of like long term. I don't know if that's sustainable. But Joel, you want to jump in here? Looks like you're
I was just gonna say that, like, I think, what did you say their ERA is right now? Like 280. That's pretty like amazing. I can see it going up a little bit above 3, but the thing that we need is if we can have consistent starting pitching, like a Barrios game where he went that one out. Like,
Right.
I'm very happy that our bullpen was able to put up 280 after being taxed literally from day one.
Yeah.
And having this huge stretch of games in such a short span is tough. So I think everyone's always going to say your bullpen can be great if they're used properly, but if they're overused, then you're going to see those numbers really expand. But right now, and kudos to Montoyo, for like being able to pick what's specific instances to use these guys, because he's been much more on this year with his bullpen usage than he was last year. At least we're talking about 16 games, but it seems like he knows how to use these guys, when to use them, and like you said about Trent Thornton, like he's baffled us right now. He's it's a converted starter who can get you multiple innings out of the bullpen, and that is really, in this new age of baseball, where you're pulling your starters early. You know, you get 5 1/3, and you're like, whoa, he's a bulldog to get to, an out into the 5th, the 6th inning. So yeah, the fact that you can have those multiple inning guys is really helpful. So we'll see, but it's how you use them.
Well, do you guys want to pivot then from the bullpen and talk Charlie Montoyo and how he's faring so well as a Blue Jays manager this year? Because I don't know how many knocks I can throw his way. Never been a big fan of his in general. Not an apologist for Charlie Montoyo, but like Joel said, he's managing the bullpen better this year than he did last year, for better or for worse. And we can say small sample size if we like, but I like seeing him getting ejected from that game last week. Little fire in his belly. I think that's something we need to see more of. I mean, he got the contract extension in the offseason, but I mean, we all know with coaches and managers, like, that money is meant to be set on fire. That whole contract is just to avoid questions at every single press conference all year long. So if he has a bad season, he's still gone. But I've been impressed with his start this year. Jen, how do you feel about Montoyo?
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be using the so-called, right relievers in the right situation. And, the outcome would certainly suggest that is true as well. I'm not a Montoyo apologist, but I've never quite understood the vitriol that he has received from a certain segment of the fan base. He's obviously very different from John Gibbons. He just is. And I loved Gibby. I do like the little bit of fire that we've seen from him, and the saltiness with regards to that comment about, no one gave a shit when we played on the road. So what are we even talking about this for? I think, they picked him for a reason. And I think we've seen some growth. We're seeing a little bit of that spiciness come in. I think he has sort of taken that next step. And I think, it goes along with where the team is, how the team has progressed. So has Montoyo.
No, I love that take. It's a great point, Britt. Yeah, Montoyo, he's not quite won me over yet, but he's definitely given me reason to be optimistic, right? Al, how do you feel about Montoyo?
Well, my opinion's changed a lot in like the first couple of weeks of this season. Okay. Last season, he drove me nuts. Like there was a game where, like, I can't remember who was pitching or what team we were playing, but we did, like, our pitcher was struggling, and he didn't even have anybody warming up in the bullpen, and he took a shit kicking on Twitter that day because of it. And it was a mind-boggling move. Like, why wouldn't you at least have somebody warming up? But this year, there hasn't been that. Like, the second there's been any, hint of a meltdown, that bullpen's up and they're ready. And you need to, like there were so many times last year where let Tyler Chatwood have one more batter. It won't kill us. And it fucking killed us every time,
Well,
so this year I'm glad. And another thing, like I've noticed this year, is he's really leaning into the shift, like really leaning into it. Like we have 4 outfielders, like every third batter.
I know it's like a softball game out there.
Yeah.
It's like, who's playing Rover? Oh, okay, we got
But I mean, he came from Tampa Bay, and he came from a very analytic team, and I think this might just be him like putting his stamp on it. Like, hey, listen, I want to do this. We're gonna do it, and I feel like he's been there long enough now that he can do that and not have to worry about anybody bitching to him about it. Like he's just like, no, this is how I want to play my team. I'm going to play my team this way. And
Zach Collins, a 3-0 green light today.
Man, exactly. Like, like he seems more engaged in the actual game this year. Like he's really like noticing, like he's noticing the flow of the game better this year. I feel like he's not waiting to react to the game. He's reacting before the game gets to where it's going. Like he's more on the ball this year than last year. So kudos to Charlie.
Can I add to that? Last year, like I know this is a weird way to say that this is how he managed the team, but it felt like he was just like, go out there and give me all you got, and we'll see what happens. We don't need to make the playoffs this year. Our window is about to open. Whatever we do this year is fine. And we came up 1 game short with that mentality. And it felt like that kind of like, you know what, I'm just go out there and have fun. And with that, Simeon hit the most home runs a second baseman has ever hit. Vladdy hit the most home runs a 22-year-old has ever hit. Bo led the league in hits. You just saw people become the players that they were supposed to be under a manager who didn't put the pressure on them to do everything every single game. And now the mentality is different. You had your 1 season of getting a full season under you, figuring out who you are. And now you know who you are. And now we're going to win. And I'm going to do everything I can to win every single game. And I didn't like Al was saying, I was coming into this season being like, you left 5 or 6 or 8 wins on the table last year. Those wins could have got us, but I don't see that team anymore. I see them taking every single win that's there and even taking some wins that they have no business. They coming back in games that today you were down 5-2.
Yeah.
And then you took the lead in that game. We lost it, but we took a lead in a game we were down 5-2 late. Like they're winning games that I wouldn't expect them to win, and they're holding on to games, and the offense hasn't been what we know it will be, but the competitiveness and the winning mentality is definitely there.
Well, we've had a couple games.
Really
I think we had one against the Rangers too, where I think it was the one game we lost in the series too, where we were down like 5-0, battled back, tied it up, and then ended up losing as well. So I mean, like those games are going to happen. You can't win every back and forth battle, but it is nice to see that they're still fighting for it.
Well, just to jump in, sorry, to Joel's point, right? That is why these, it was sort of reported about Montoyo sort of being that team friendly, player friendly guy. And you're right. You saw that success that it translated into individual performances last year. Yes, they missed the playoffs, but clearly players were able to perform under him. Now there is some pressure and he's making all the right moves, right? He's not the, I can't think of the right term, but like he's not the airhead that people are trying, some people have tried to portray him as. He is an intelligent baseball guy. Mm-hmm. And, we are, the team has made that next step. The players are in that position and he's right along with them. And I think, I think that was sort of part of the plan all along, to be honest. And it sucks to have missed that playoffs by 1 game last season. I'm not saying that, he couldn't have done things differently. I'm not saying that at all. But to have been able to get those performances out of players last year, the steps that Vlad took last season, You cannot negate that.
Well, we're going to talk Vladdy here in just a second for sure. Lots to love about the captain of this team here. I just want to say with old Montoyo here, and no, there's a very real chance that, look, he hasn't been managing this bullpen at all. This is just the analytics department, and all he's doing is answering the phone or reading the text message and deciding who to go with, right? Like, there is that could all be all that it is. The defensive shift, maybe we're giving him credit, and maybe that is beyond his decision making at this point, right? Like, maybe he's less hands off less hands on than he's ever been before. That could be the case. What could also be the case, though, is that for the first however many years Montoya was the manager, he goes, look, I've got a super talented team. I don't want to get in the way of that, right? Like I think Al was saying, right? Like, you guys just go out there, do what you do, right? I got confidence in you. Reminds me of there's the line in Mr. Baseball. You guys remember that Tom Selleck movie, right? And he's struggling through the whole movie. And then by the end of it, there's that paradigm shift in his brain where he goes, I just want to hit the ball, right? For the longest time, he's struggling because he didn't want to strike out. But the difference between I don't want to strike out and I want to hit it is the same as I don't want to lose the game versus I want to win the game, right? So I do wonder, and maybe this is the optimist in me, but maybe that now that Montoya's gotten to a point where, like Jen was saying, he's got some more confidence and some more experience, maybe he realizes, he's like, look, if I don't step up here, I'm gone anyways, right? So maybe he's just managing with some like newfound sense of like reckless abandon where he's like, no, we're going to do it my way. And if it doesn't work out, I'm gone anyways, but I'm going to go down on my terms. And maybe his terms are working good because we're also seeing some new aggressiveness on the base path. And I mean, I do like, he's leaning into the shift, and I know the shift is going next year, but this new like aggressive base running, that's not going away. And I do like that the Blue Jays have, other than watching Bichette get picked off all the time on first base. Oh, man, I could go on a whole rant about that. But, I mean, we watched him did he end up getting picked off by Verlander in that first game? Because I know he slipped in the mud about 3 times on those different pickoff attempts. Anyways, I digress. I do like the aggressive base running. I want everybody's thoughts on this new aggressive mentality from everybody on the team except for Tapia. So, Joel, let's start with you. Let's start with Tapia and this aggressive base running. Take that any direction you like.
I think there's like a lot of situational running positions, especially with like the shifts still in play this year. You can be aggressive when guys are not manning the base in front of you, right? And we saw that on Vladdy coming home on that pop-up. I can't remember if it was 2 outs, but there's been situations where if you see that bag in front of you isn't being covered, you make them make a play. You make them make an additional play to get you out trying to take that base. Also, I'm totally for the added running. Like, it's tough to run against a guy like Maldonado in Houston. Like, you don't really want to see too many stolen bases there because Maldonado's such an amazing catcher. But like, when you see a guy who's going down to one knee in situations and that ball, you can read that ball in the dirt, you can take the next base because he's stunted in the ground. He's not able to block that ball properly. And he's pretty much giving you that bag. And that's an element of the game that players need to take advantage of, is seeing that lazy catcher behind the bag who's, hey, I'm worried about framing. Well, framing is going to be gone right away. So if you're down on one knee in the future and your balls are getting too far to the inside and you can't push off your knee because you're, locked down on your knee, those are great times to take that extra base. And you saw Gurriel just cruise into third against Collins there on a ball where he was down on his knee, and you're like, runner on second base, less than 1 out. What happens if you don't block that ball properly? You got to run around third with less than 1 out, and you bring in the infield and the ball over the shortstop, which would have been an easy catch, becomes a run. So base running aggressiveness, I love it. I'm all for it.
That whole rant was less about base running aggressiveness and more about you complaining about catchers going down on one knee, and that's why I love you, Joel.
Can come in.
Is that Buck Martinez on your line, or
what's that?
What was that?
Is that Buck Martinez on the other line?
I knew as soon as you brought up the base running, I knew he was going to make his way to Zach Collins. We were on the phone when because we were talking about I think it was one knee catching anyway. I think we were talking about it, and as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh, he's going to bring it up. I'm just waiting for it to happen. I know it's happening, and there it is.
That's great. All right.
I am fierce on that topic.
Well, let's talk about something that he's not going to be able to make this about catchers. Vladie Guerrero.
Don't make it a
Jr.
challenge now.
Look, Vladdy Jr., legally speaking, has above average speed. Right? Like, statistically, he is in the 52nd percentile. Jen, you go right ahead. I know you want to jump in here.
Well, I looked it up on Baseball Savant today, and he was in the 42nd percentile.
I did the same thing. Yeah,
it's all these young guys that are getting promoted that are making me look like an idiot. So, all right. Well, he's still made some strides. He's lost some weight.
Major strides, absolutely.
I think maybe my favorite highlight of the whole ball season so far has been Vladdy scoring from first on that Chapman double in Houston 2 days ago. For me, that's like the embodiment of how bad this team wants to make the playoffs. Is just like tie game, late in the game, Vladdy's on first base and sees like, this might be my only chance to score. I'm going for it. And I don't know what it is about watching Big Diesel run like that, but it is fun. And he's like pretty graceful of a runner. Like,
oh yeah.
If you're just watching a video of two guys running and you had to decide who's the faster, you're gonna, like, between him and Tapia, you're gonna pick Vladdy's probably the faster guy. And so I don't know if I want to like give high fives to Vladdy right now, or if I want to complain about Tapia. Which direction should we take this conversation?
Go either way. Both make sense.
Al, you want to jump in here?
High five Vladdy. Yeah. Like 2 years ago, he doesn't even think about making that play.
Yeah.
You know,
he probably thinks about it.
He's lucky to get.
Well, he might have thought about it, but I mean, they're throwing up the break sign. Like by the time he gets to second, they're throwing the break sign up. You know, like he's become more of a complete player, and like not just, you know, his hitting is otherworldly. Everyone knows that. Mm-hmm. But his defense, like, he has been quick at first base. Mm-hmm. You know, he's made some like legit great defensive plays. And that has to do with his speed and his versatility and his agility. Like he's put into work, and you can see it. Like even last year, I don't think he makes it home on that play. Like he has worked really hard, and like you're seeing him become, like, I don't want to say a 5 tools player, but I mean a 4.2 tools player. You know, and he's in running now. So
yeah. All right, Jen, do you want to jump in here?
Sure. So on that play when he went from first to home, so Sarah Langs tweeted that his sprint speed was 29 feet per second. So elite is 30. So he has it in him to kind of hit that elite speed. But I mean, I think he needed an oxygen mask on the bench.
Yes.
To recover, right? So, you know, I don't know how often we'll see him hit 29 feet per second, but he's got it in him. And I don't think he would have last season. He certainly didn't the season before, right? And so that is kudos to him for all of the work that he has put in over the offseason. And it's just another weapon in his arsenal, right? So he doesn't necessarily have to hit bombs in order to come around to home plate eventually. So that just makes him, as you said, a more complete player. And can I just point out, coming into today's game, he had an OPS of 1.002, second in the league. Is that not like the quietest OPS? Like, you know,
especially with the league being so offensively down, and he's right where he was last year, if not even fractionally better.
I don't think I would have guessed that, to be honest, but he's just behind Bryce Harper.
I'm going to play on that because his defense looks better because he's a few steps closer to the balls when he has to make the plays now. He's not out here. He's able to make the play here. Running around the bases, he looks like a gazelle. Like I totally agree with you, Adam. Him running around the bases is just like is it more entertaining than him hitting a 450 home run? Foot home run is close. This season, we've seen him hit his longest homer and his longest opposite field homer. He's got more power lighter. He's lost weight and gained power. That's ridiculous. The fact that one gaining one tool gained in the other, you shouldn't. What? How do you gain power and speed? That's not the same.
You lose body fat percentage and you gain muscle.
Yeah,
muscle.
And
that's what he's done.
What you're seeing. You're seeing evolutions of him as he's dropped what now 50 pounds since the 280 boy that he was, right? Coming in 2 seasons ago, he lost 30 and 20, lost 50 pounds.
He's listed at 6'2", 240 right now.
Yeah, like I want it to stop now because I don't want him to be 6'2", 170 and like, you know.
I don't think he will.
He's not getting like his dad.
He'll gain Billy Hamilton speed there, but I can't complain about that.
Where does the evolution stop towards this speed player? That's insane. But it's so beautiful to watch him consistently add every year. And when does it stop? Right? His dad from 22 to 23 took 130 OPS jump. It went from 810 to 940, 950, 960. So if he's matching his old man, and his old man never had to do these weight things, I don't even know, man. He's just so fun to watch. I love it.
He's on a different level.
He is.
He really is, yeah.
He is the best. I've said it before, I'll say it again. He is the best hitter in the American League by a wide margin.
And that's why we brought you on, Jack.
I mean, like, and the reason why I say that is because, like, other than looking at stats, I mean, just watching him play, you could just tell there's a different presence with him in the batter's box than someone like Shohei Ohtani or even I'd say even Bryce Harper. I would go that far to say that. I mean, I wouldn't say Juan Soto because I'm a Juan Soto apologist. I love him. I pray to him. He is my thing.
All right.
But like Vladdy Jr., if he continues to take steps forward, I mean, I could see him winning MVP this year. I could really see it over Shohei Ohtani because I think if he somehow gets better, even with the value that Ohtani brings, I think it's him by a wide margin at that point because he looks incredible.
Well, you saw it today. I think Bo was on second. First base was open late in the game. They didn't want to go anywhere near Vladdy. They didn't intentionally walk him, but that was an intentional walk.
Mm-hmm.
That's as close as you get. I said exactly that.
They were scared to pitch to Vladdy today. And there's only a handful of players in the league right now. The pitchers are like legit. Yeah, I'm they're shitting their pants out there watching Vladdy. Like they just are. So,
there's no reason to let him win the game in the 10th. There's no reason. Put him on first.
And this, I mean, Jack just brought up Juan Soto, right? That's why Juan Soto is like 1,000 walks a year, right? Is because
it's fear.
He's this fear bat, but he also doesn't have the lineup behind him, right? So, I mean, we talked about it right off the top of the show, the impact of missing Teoscar. And I think today in extra innings is exactly that. Like,
they didn't want to lose the game. They didn't want to lose the game to Vladdy. They wanted to lose it to someone behind him.
Zach Collins, like who cares about Zach Collins? Like he already hit his home run. What are the odds he's going to hit another one, right? So
if Teo's in the lineup, they pitch to him.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
So I don't know.
And almost there's no pitcher to go to, right? There's no like, oh, Vladdy's up. Bring in this guy. He'll mop the floor with Vladdy. There isn't that pitcher.
Maybe Ryan Presley for the Astros specifically, but
he's out.
I don't know if they already. Oh, he's out.
He's out right now. Still, he's on 10-day injury list. No, that's fine. But like, I still don't think that Vladdy handles. Who's got the highest batting average on 95-mile-an-hour plus fastballs? It's like Vladdy hits like 360 against that pitch, right? That is what your core reliever is coming out to throw is a 96-plus-mile-an-hour fastball. So it's just like, this guy hits 360 against that. So that's why you walk him, right? You can't let that guy. There's nobody to bring in. Remember that at bat he had against Chapman in his rookie year? That went like 14 pitches and Chapman just keeps trying to buzz him with 103. And Vladdy's like, you think about the home run derby he put on when he had a 740 OPS and he breaks the home run derby record by 30 home runs and he doesn't even win it. Like the guy is phenomenal. The guy is a freak.
Well,
is that what we were talking about? What are we talking about?
I completely blanked. I'm not even sure.
Devolves into Vladdy being great. So take that.
I'm okay with it as an Orioles fan. I love watching him play. Just not against us. Anyway.
All right. We have a couple more topics to get to here as we start to run out of time. We're going to talk Miggy hitting 3,000, and we're going to talk the trash bag fans in New York. But before we get to that, I just wanted to get everybody's temperature check on Gabriel Moreno.
He's a double machine. He's a double machine.
At what point is it too much to ignore to bring him up to the major leagues?
It's almost there now.
I'm starting to feel that way. I was hoping someone on this panel would talk me off of this Gabriel Moreno hype train. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. Like, I was against bringing up Alek Manoah early last year and then had to eat my words. He's hitting well in AAA. That was the last question mark remaining for him. Still small sample size, sure. It's like 10 games into the AAA season for him. What else does he have to do to prove it before he comes up, right? So,
he has to prove that he won't.
Right?
The only thing he has to prove is that he won't eat up a year of like eligibility. Like, that's seriously, that's it. Like, what else does he have to prove? You know, his OPS is like right around 1,000. Every game he's hitting a double or two. You know, like, he might not be a 30 home run guy, but he might be a 40 double guy. Like, he just slaps the ball hard into the outfield. Like he is eating up AAA pitching, and he's not learning anything at the plate there that he doesn't already know. Call him up.
He's hitting 323 in 9 games with AAA Buffalo.
Yeah.
I was going to say to that point that, like, with a guy like Yordan Alvarez, Houston didn't care that they were bringing him up in a DH spot, right? Like, it's because that bat is so mythical that you can wait a year, 2 years, 3 years to comfortably get him into the field when your bat is producing at that level. And we have this weird inconsistent DH spot on this team. Like, Zach Collins is a DH and Kirk is a DH. And it's like, well, what if one of those catchers was just worried about DHing this year? And you don't focus, hey, you don't have to learn the rotation. Maybe we'll get you in 15, 20 games behind the plate, but it's not our focus. We just want you to come up and hit. And that's a really, like,
is that what you're saying for Moreno? Just bring Moreno up as a full-time DH, maybe catch 10 games this year?
Exactly. Yeah. That's like, that's what pretty much they did with Yordan, right? In Houston, they brought him up. Like, they found times to get him into the outfield, but that wasn't their concern literally into, I think, whether it's season 3, season 4 of Alvarez. And now they're starting to finally put him into outfield games to try to get him in there, just to have a little bit more of a resting spot for the older guys who need a DH game. But, like, when you got a bat like that producing at that level, I'm saying bring him up in that type of role, just to come up and hit. Focus solely on that, and the rest can come.
So we are getting to a positional, like a roster management predicament as we approach May 1st, and Moreno factors into that, and whether we call him up or not, right? Roster's going to contract 2 spots, so we're going to lose 2 spots there. We've already got Collins and Kirk, and Danny Jansen's coming off the IL, right? Not necessarily any day now, but probably right around the start of May, Danny Jansen's going to be back on this team. We're not doing 4 catchers, right? That's crazy. 3 catchers is probably pushing it, right?
We still have Heineman too, so 5 catchers.
I have a feeling there's a chance he gets DFA, just a slight one.
So where does the flexibility come? Because I don't think Kirk comes up until Collins starts to struggle. I think as long as Collins is hot, that's reason enough to keep Kirk down, right? As long as
Moreno.
Collins, sorry, yes, Moreno. As long as Collins is hitting 340 and hitting 2 home runs a week, yeah, we'll keep rolling him out there. Why not, right? Like, you'd be crazy not to. But once that production starts to drop and you got Danny Jansen back, do we go with 3 with Kirk, Moreno, and Jansen, or at what point? Like, because Kirk hasn't exactly produced for us this year. So what's everyone's optimism on Kirk? Jack, I'm really interested in your take as a non-necessarily Blue Jays specific fan, because I know there's a lot of Jays hype on Kirk. So
there is a lot. I think what I've noticed with him is that over the past couple seasons, he hasn't gotten a ton of consistent playing time. I think as 'cause I know a little bit about player mentality, that's a huge thing, consistency. I think when you can get yourself into a rhythm as a player in a consistent role, the production will start to come along. The better mojo, the better mentality will come along. He hasn't had a lot of consistent playing time, and I feel like if he did, he'd be a very good run producer. I mean, behind the plate, I don't think he's the strongest. I think it's sort of safe to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if the Blue Jays can get him into a semi-regular playing role, if he can produce well in like a short span, then maybe look long term, I think he'll be a great bat for that lineup. But he just hasn't had anything consistent, and I think that's a huge thing. If he can't get himself into a rhythm, then he's just going to continue to struggle. So maybe if you send him down, he gets himself into the rhythm there and produces well, bring him back up, keep him there up there consistently, he'll produce well. But I feel like there's a lot of expectation with him, and it's almost like there shouldn't be, considering, like I just said, he just hasn't had anything consistent. So if he can play well consistently in the minors, come back up, play well, I don't think there's anything to complain about with him.
Jen, anything to add on that thought?
Yeah, I agree about the consistent playing time. Absolutely. I think that's a factor here. So, yeah, I mean, at some point, I think Moreno is obviously going to just force their hand, right? They'll be past the manipulation time. They'll be past that date. He'll be raking, assuming, and he's going to absolutely force their hand. So, and I'm sure they already know that. So I'm sure, got a plan already in place. They know what they're going to do when that time comes.
Here's an interesting wrinkle. I'm interested in everybody's take on the left-handed bat value, because Kirk, Moreno, and Jansen are all righties, and Zach Collins is the lone left-handed bat. We're not keeping 4 catchers. Like, for the length of the season, that's not a practical answer. And Heineman, sorry, no disrespect to him. It feels like Moreno is inevitable. Maybe Collins can justify his job if he can keep producing competently and as a left-handed bat. Is there a chance that we could see Collins on this team, on the 26-man roster, for the length of the season?
I think so.
Go ahead, Joel.
Yeah. I was gonna say that because I love me some Kirk, but to me, Kirk becomes a trade piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk becomes a trade piece because what you want out of Kirk, we have all this faith that Moreno will provide. Collins has a little bit of maneuverability. You can still send him down, I believe, one more time. Is that correct?
So that's why we traded for him. That's why he has more value over
Yeah, he has an option.
But I feel like with Danny's added production behind the plate, and Moreno coming in, and if he comes in, he's hitting, he can. I think you're just more confident with Danny being your catcher and your DH being a catcher if it's Moreno doing that spot, right? And with Kirk's value being so high that he could bring you, it's you're not going to trade him to Oakland because they already have Murphy, but like you can try to find a spot where you get some sort of arm in return. If you can put like Biggio and Kirk together in a package where a team like Cincinnati, the Reds are getting a lot of they're trying to build right now for youth in the future, right? So I think that becomes being so overloaded depth-wise as a catcher is just a rare thing. Mm-hmm. And good catching is always sought after in baseball. So just to say that you've got 4 guys, you can't roster 4 guys. No. And so what helps us win? Is it going down to sending these guys down to the minors, or using them as a piece right now? Because they're all young. Their abilities aren't going to start waning right away. So why not take one of them, trade for something where you do have a slight weakness, and try to bolster your team that way? Because I think we all have faith in Danny right now as our starting catcher. Moreno coming in to take that spot eventually, maybe in 2 years. And then Collins, filling in when your guys are DHing from the catching spots. So I think those three, which makes me sad because I love Kirk.
Let's pivot slightly then. Okay. Let's just operate for the next 5 minutes under the assumption that we're going to trade Kirk. Okay, let's just hear this out. What is the best way to increase his trade value as fast as we can? Like if the idea is we're going to trade him, whether it's in May or in July, right now, is it better to send him down to AAA where he gets more reps and can get that batting average back up? Or is it to just grind it out at the major leagues, give him more at-bats and hope that he turns his numbers around? Because his numbers right now at the major league level for this season, not that impressive. So, Jack, do you want to step in
fourth? Hit him fourth in that Collins spot. No, just...
I think for me, I feel like the best way to do that is the latter option by sending him down to the former option, by sending him down to the minors and increasing his value there. Because teams, if you send him to AA where he's facing like better prospects, or AAA where he's facing veterans who are trying to get back up to the majors, I feel like he would fit well. And if he can increase his value there, he'd be so much more valuable to teams down the line. Because I feel like if you keep him on the active roster and keep trying to play him, he will end up affecting the team right now as a whole. And considering they're trying to win, I feel like he'd be a liability, which I don't think that's going to be tolerated by the Blue Jays and their fans, obviously. So I feel like if you send him down, give him more time, because he's going to play well down there. He has incredible minor league numbers. So if he continues to play down there, gets his value back up, plays well, he'll be a much more appealing trade piece come the deadline or before the All-Star break.
He's only 22, right?
He's young. Yeah.
Any other contradicting points to that, or did Jack kind of nail it on the head there?
As long as Moreno's playing in the majors, I honestly don't care where Kirk plays. So, honestly,
feel bad for Kirk now.
No, that's not a slight. That's not a slight at Kirk. Kirk can be a very valuable team or a valuable player on a team. It's just we're sitting on possibly like apart from Adley Rutschman, like he's like right there as like elite talent as a catcher, and
he's up there for sure.
He could within 5 years we could probably honestly say he's the best catcher the Jays have ever had. He's got that kind of talent.
Yeah,
there is the upside there. That is for sure.
He has massive upside.
All right, we're going to pivot just a little bit now to Miguel Cabrera hitting 3,000. So we are going to go past 6 o'clock. I apologize to everybody who has a tight out. If you guys got to take off, that's fine. But
I'm good.
If we got
I got all my homework done, so I'm good.
Let's go 10 minutes past. So let's talk Miguel Cabrera. I mean, what else is there to say other than first ballot Hall of Famer? Congratulations on hitting 3,000. I do want to point out that we hit 3,000 subscribers the day before he got to 3,000 hits. So thank you to everybody who helped us.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
It's a pretty
Honestly,
tight
it's
race.
probably even tougher than what Mickey did. So
maybe a little bit. This
well,
YouTube environment's pretty rough out here.
Than we have, right? So we got there a lot quicker. Miguel Cabrera is in elite company. I mean, Triple Crown winner. He's one of, I think it was 3 players with 300 career average, 3,000 hits, and 500 home runs. So, I don't know. Let's just all go around and give our best high fives to Miguel Cabrera. Joel, let's start with you. Miguel Cabrera. What else is there to say?
We've got the next one on our team, so it's really great to be able to relate to that guy. He was the last guy to win a Triple Crown, and we know what it's like to be on the verge of a Triple Crown, watching Vladdy. So it's, and you've always heard those comparisons. Like he is his father's son, but everybody has always compared him to a young Miguel Cabrera. Once again, taking the conversation and putting it on Vladdy. I'm sorry.
It's impossible.
It's impossible not to. But I watched him from those early days in Miami, winning a championship, becoming that incredibly high-paid player in Detroit and living up to it. And then and just watching that, like 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, what club you become a part of, keeping your batting average over 300. He's an absolute legend. And he does it with the perfect personality. Like, I think about that intentional walk that he got from Boone, and they won that game. Meadows got a 2 RBI base hit, the next guy up. And in the post-game interview, he's like, hey, my on base percentage is going up. So, he's like, he was laughing. He's just a great guy. And it's nice to see that he's leaving the game in good hands. There's guys that have that type of personality that are going to come up and fill those shoes. So he's left the game in a good place. And it's been an amazing career to watch that guy hit. One of the greatest right-handed hitters I've ever seen.
Very cool. Al, how about yourself?
I after he hit his 3,000th, I kind of went and looked at like the current hit leaders behind Miggy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a long time before we see a 3,000 hit guy. Like,
yeah,
honestly, the guy I think might have an outside chance in the next 10 years is Machado. But apart from that, like, it's going to be a while before we see another 3,000 hit guy.
Point.
Like, there's just no one behind him. I mean, Robinson Cano is a few hundred hits shy, but I mean, like, he's done.
Mm-hmm.
And even like a guy like Mike Trout, like, do you honestly think that he's got another 1,600 hits in him?
Yeah.
Like, he's the best player I've ever seen apart from Griffey and Bonds, but I don't think he's got that much longevity left.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're looking at like, well, who's coming up? And it's like, I don't want to like put the pressure of 3,000 hits on Wander Franco, but apart from him and Vlad and Soto, I don't see. I think those 3 might be the next 3 that actually have the possibility of doing it. So it just shows you how difficult and how long you have to play.
Mm-hmm.
Very high
Such
level,
an impressive feat
to reach these types of to stay healthy, just to stay healthy,
mm-hmm.
to play for 20 years and be healthy for the majority of it.
Yeah.
That's almost as impressive
Incredible.
as 3,000.
Well, we've said time and time again that Cal Ripken Jr. record of consecutive games is the most untouchable, most impressive record in all of sports. So being healthy, especially in baseball, maybe more than any other sport, I think is a wild achievement. Jen, any thoughts on Miguel Cabrera?
I don't know that I can say anything better than what's already been said, but it is, it's to recognize that we've seen greatness is really a really cool thing to be able to do, right? To know that we've seen something very, very special. I've been watching baseball my entire life, 20 years, to be dominant at what you do for 20 years, to be able to actually play to that level for so long is such a rare thing. And as as Joel said, to do it with so much grace and enthusiasm, I'm just happy to have been able to see him play. That's all. Mm-hmm. That's all. I can't really add anything that anybody else has said.
No, it is what it is, right? He's one of the greatest for a reason. So, Jack, anything else you'd like to? I know you really like to complain about Miguel Cabrera, so if we get that hot take from you. You said asshole in the clubhouse. Is that what you said?
Oh, jeez. Oh my God. Let me tell you.
Just kidding. I think that's that's one of the cool things too. Is like nobody hates him.
No,
he's not.
No. That's a whole different story. He's had one of the best peaks of any Major League Baseball player that I've been alive for, and I've been alive for 21 years. That's not very long, but still, over his peak, as it was from 2004 to 2016, and over that course of time, he cranked 434 home runs, hit 323 with a 402 on base, and a 968 OPS.
Wow.
If that peak doesn't put him in the Hall of Fame, first ballot with at least 98%, because there's going to be somebody who's going to be. Am I allowed to curse? There's going to be the assholes like, you know what? No. There's going to be one.
Well, there's always someone who just
there's always someone there was one with Derek Jeter, and I have a very
was one
differing
with
opinion
Ken
on Derek
Griffey.
Jeter. With Griffey as well, you said?
Yeah. I think there was 2 votes against Griffey.
How do
I
you
don't
not vote for
understand why
Ken?
somebody has to be that guy. Like, why
I don't
do
know.
How could
you
you,
have
like-
to be that guy?
You should lose your vote if
Yeah,
you
Seriously.
don't be that
vote
guy.
against Ken Griffey Jr. or like a Derek. Anyway, sorry. Go on, Jack.
But I mean, he's one of the best to have ever done it. I think it's safe to say he has the resume as well. He has 11 All-Star appearances. He's won the MVP twice. He's won a World Series. I mean, it was back in 2003, but he still won it.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 4-time batting title. He's a Triple Crown winner. I mean, he's one of the most decorated players ever, especially at least in the 2000s. I won't say ever because that's
Sure.
wide history of baseball, but he's one of the best to have ever done it, and I cannot wait to watch him get inducted into the Hall of Fame first ballot with at least 98%. I'll go that far, and I'm gonna miss him. My childhood's ending. I'm gonna miss him.
Very cool. All right, let's talk now the big incident with the New York Yankees fans throwing beer bottles at, was it the Cleveland Guardians they were playing?
Yeah, Oscar Mercado got a bottle thrown at him. Miles Straw was bothering the fans. My goodness, it was horrible.
I don't really know what else to say other than like that's embarrassing. Like, I mean, Jays fans did it in the playoffs, so we can't really take too much of a moral high ground here, but like
I was gonna say it'd be a little bit hypocritical, but I'm kidding.
Who
But-
was the commentator to give us grief for that too? Remember, was it Harold Reynolds?
I think it was Reynolds. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see what he has to say about, like, because the Yankees fans are always trying to get a reaction from the players. You know, they do the roll call to start every game to get the players to react. That's their own players, but like, you know, to you're the mecca of baseball. That is Yankee Stadium. You know, you aren't some, you know, lower tier fans. You're the Yankee State. You're Yankees fans. Like, but you are because you probably Yankees fans, because like that's just throwing stuff at the players feels like it belongs in baseball 100 years ago. Seems like that was happening to, like, you know, Ty Cobb, exactly, right? So just like, if to have your emotions peaked so much that you need to like throw something at a player, and I don't understand that, especially against like the Guardians, who are, you know, they're kind of like a team that has.
What did they do wrong?
Yeah, like it's a weird team. Like if it happened against the Red Sox, not that I forgive it, but like I kind of get it at that point. Like if it is your bitter rival, like sure, but like the Guardians in April. Like,
I don't think it's emotional though. I think it's intentional.
No, I think if I want to go and make a hard stretch, the only reason why I could see Yankees fans being upset with Cleveland is when the Guardians were still the Indians and Francisco Lindor cranked a grand slam off of Chad Green. That's in the playoffs. That's the only thing that I can think of.
I don't think
anyone. That's even that far. That's too far of a stretch. No, they can't. They win too much.
I will say, I think we're probably all familiar with John Boy Media, and they do their breakdowns. And
did they do one on this? I would assume
they did one on this, and this is the first time where I was like, oh, like I wish he didn't do one on this, because I mean, he was not like pro fan in this situation. It was definitely like a flogging of, hey, don't do this, you guys are idiots. But like, he showed their faces. I'm sure all of these idiots are like, hey, cool, I was on, you know, like, I don't know. It's like school shooters. We just don't need to give them any sort of infamy for a whole slew of reasons.
Right.
All right. Now that I've mentioned school shooters, I'm sure we're going to get the stream taken down. But yeah, I'll jump in. Go ahead.
All right. So Stephen Kwan ran into the fence and bloodied up his forehead or his nose or whatever. And that's when they started kind of getting on Kwan. But it was something that Miles Straw said that, like, I mean, don't quote me on this, but it was just a feeling that there was like something racial about it, about the way they were like.
I had that feeling as well.
And Yankees fans are kind of, them and Boston fans are kind of becoming known for that. And you can see it. People, New York Yankees aren't the team that everybody wants to go to anymore. You saw it in this offseason. Like, they're not that destination, and they seem like they have to overpay now to get players like Cole. He got overpaid. And they got a really big free agent coming up at the end of the year. And who is a minority. And when you start hearing that kind of stuff thrown about, and Judge went out there and was like, hey, calm down. Him and Stanton were trying to get the fans to calm it down. But I mean, like, that could be a thing with Judge going forward. You know what I mean? Like, Yankees fans need to be telling a Yankees fan to be smarter is kind of like, beating your head against the wall. But I mean, they're kind of getting a reputation for that. And I don't know if they've noticed, but there are a lot of minorities that play in the MLB. MLB. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said the MLB. But yeah, there's a lot of people that, might not want to go to New York. And just the vibe I'm getting off Aaron Judge is like, maybe I don't want to be here anymore. I think, maybe I'd look good in a Tigers uniform. They'll pay me $280 million.
To piggyback off of what you said real quick, I can kind of see where you're going with in that sense about the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees fans being grouped into one kind of umbrella with sort of racial undertones. And I can completely, the first moment that I could think of is when Adam Jones received a standing ovation from the Boston Red Sox fans after he received racial remarks thrown at him when he was in center field. That's the first thing that I could think of. It's like seriously, like I don't understand why that even has to happen. The Yankees, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I'm not afraid to say this. The Yankees fans yesterday just reaffirmed the narrative that they have the worst fan base in baseball. I'm not afraid to say that. They absolutely do. Because whenever I hear like fan incidents, the first team that comes to my mind is the Yankees. And like obviously that what happened with the Dodgers and the Giants fan, with the Giants fan passing away, that was disgusting. But I haven't heard a lot of bad things from them since. All I've heard is from the Yankees fans and the Red Sox fans about just horrible fan interactions with players. And I really do think that something needs to be done. I don't know what it is, but something has to be, because the players can't just keep telling the fans to stop. If they don't have the self-control to stop,
do what they do in Europe
problem.
in football. When in football matches in Europe, whenever there's anything racial and fans get out of hand, the next game they play to an empty stadium.
I don't know if the Yankees can really afford to do that, though. I'm not so sure.
It would be Major League Baseball imposing that, right? It's not the Yankees, not the Yankees themselves.
Yeah. Then I feel like at that point, then a lot of teams wouldn't have fans in their stadiums because it happens so unbelievably often, which is a problem in and of itself.
Yeah, that would be Oakland's excuse. They'd be like, we don't have bad fans; they're just all racist. So that's why
we don't have any. Unfortunately. Don't look at their
Oakland gets called out for it, and they have to put fans in the stadium for the next game.
How would they go about that? My goodness, they can barely attract 3,000 fans at a home game.
But I mean, fines might work as well. I don't know. These guys are on camera. I
mean, there's almost certainly some sort of a lifetime ban coming.
I've always wondered how that's enforced.
Identified.
Yeah, me too.
Either,
right?
I do wonder
is
that
there
as well.
facial recognition going in?
They're not checking ID at the gates,
not.
right?
So a lifetime ban, I can't even see how that's enforceable. But you find somebody, and that's different. When it's costing people money, that's different. And you know what? I'm going to backtrack for a second.
Sure.
You shouldn't have to fine people to get them to not act racist, but right. Like, I just want to backtrack on that because it's so, come on. It's right. But here we are because this happens.
Another thing though, where's the Yankees statement on this?
Wait, they didn't give one?
I have no idea if they have, to be honest.
I haven't seen one yet myself.
Why does that?
I haven't seen one either.
Like,
why does that almost not surprise me at this point?
Yeah.
Like a little bit. Is that bad that I'm not even surprised that if they haven't said anything that they haven't? Is that wrong of me to say that?
Take a quick look through their Twitter.
They're also 5 days away from that cheat letter coming out to say what they were doing.
Right.
Like, and then things are
so
kind of all
that.
compacting.
I cannot wait to cover that. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's like it's ridiculous because I think Stephen Kwan is from California.
He is from California.
And it's like the most popular, sports bending baseball player of all time is from Japan right now. And it's just like, and we've spent an hour talking about a Dominican born baseball player for, born in Montreal half. But like, if you're at the point where you're at a baseball game and you're judging a person by the color of your skin, how far behind are you? Like, how far behind? Like, it blows my mind that you're going into a baseball game and you're judging somebody, because we are so beyond that in this game. This game has literally gotten to the point where people are judged without even being looked at all. Let's just look at the numbers. We can break you down to a mathematical formula and judge you that way instead of ever even looking at you as a human being. Like, not that you're not being looked at as a human being, but we've been able to look past the human elements so well in this game. And the fact that you're coming to a game and you have that hatred in you and you're mad at a baseball player who's breaking records. Stephen Kwan was breaking records to start the season for an on-base streak. And for you to bring hatred into your heart to a baseball game, I just don't.
I would argue that they're not really baseball fans. I would argue that they're not. Yes, these are not good people that we're talking about.
No. And then again, this isn't to justify what happened at all. I'm not saying it is, but it is New York.
All right.
We've
given these schmohawks enough of our time. Let's move on. I know we're already 10 minutes over time, but I don't really want to end on such a sour note. So we're just going to quickly run through some of the comments here on YouTube, and then we'll do our goodbyes. So this is brought up by quite a few people that Zach Collins can play first base in a pinch. So rather see Zach Collins at first than Kevin Biggio.
I honestly think Kevin's days are numbered, but
I think you're right, Jen. I think you've won me over, and so is his bad performance. But I'm having to get off that train, unfortunately. What else do we got here? We've got.
It's just sad that Kevin Biggio is just not playing up to his up to the standards he kind of set for himself as a rookie. It really is sad.
So much optimism there.
I still believe in him. I hope he can turn it around.
Prospects will break your heart.
This is true.
I feel like he's got a future somewhere else. I feel like
I was thinking the same
else,
thing.
I think so too. But we can't mess around.
We can't
with
afford
it while we're in this playoff window. It can't happen.
Yeah.
We were talking about Montoyo last year, letting the players be themselves, and Kevin kind of missed the opportunity. And he's a little bit later on in his development, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just like when you're seeing 21, 22-year-olds really grab a hold of the opportunities that they're being given, and the 26 to 7-year-old is stumbling around. It's just like you can't give him as much rope.
All right, next comment comes in. Longevity should never be a prerequisite for entering the hall. It's stupid. What do you guys think of that? Is a elite but small sample size enough for the Hall of Fame?
No, I don't think so.
It would have to be pretty damn elite.
Let's take Shohei Ohtani. If Shohei Ohtani retired at the end of this season, is he a Hall of Famer?
No. Not at all. No.
Okay.
I feel like when the only exception to this, and I'm sorry to jump in, but I feel like it just popped up into my head. The only exception when it comes to a lack of longevity, but when he played, he was incredible, is Sandy Koufax. That's the first player that comes to my mind who played 10 years. He was incredible. Unbelievable. Unfortunately, he retired by 30. But what he did then, I feel like if a player were to replicate that, I feel like then he has a massive argument for going into the Hall of Fame, but not first ballot, but still Hall of Fame. I don't think if anyone were to retire today, like if Bryce Harper were to retire today after having an incredible career, because he has played extremely well, he's not a Hall of Famer. He's not.
Like Trout?
Yes, but like not first ballot.
Trout's earned it by WAR technically at this point, right? He's got 7 WAR.
Yeah. Like I think Trout is in no matter what. Like he can coast the next decade. But
absolutely. I think the same thing could be said about Pujols. If he retired after his contract ended with the St. Louis Cardinals, he would have absolutely been in.
For sure he could have.
It's interesting because I talked about Joey Votto And Votto is on the cusp right now of losing his 300 batting average.
I remember that video. Yeah.
So break this down for people who haven't seen it, Joel.
What's that?
Just break it down for people who might be watching and haven't seen your TikTok. Explain what's happening with Joey Votto.
So Votto is he's in his 17th, 18th season, right? He's got 2 more guaranteed years on a $22.5 million a year contract. So he's going to make another $45 million. But to me, the exceptional club that he's a part of is the 300 batting average, 400 on base, 500 slugging percentage. Only 18 players have ever done that in the history of the game. As soon as he loses his 300 batting average, he's a 290 guy. He literally becomes Carlos Delgado. His OPS is the same. He's got 120 less home runs, and it's like Carlos Delgado was bounced off the ballot on one ballot. One ballot, and he was bounced, right? So it's just like it's interesting because that longevity usually gets you to milestones like Miggy's 3,000 hits or 500 home runs. But now with the analytical stuff, it's like, oh, you're losing 300, 400, 500. Well, what are you now? You're a guy who has no postseason success. You're a big. Does on base get you in? Can you get in just on base alone? So it's just like it's interesting. It's what do those extra. Sometimes those extra years help you get to milestones that put you in no matter what. And sometimes those extra years bring you down and you aren't, your numbers decrease because you're looking to cash those checks. So if you're cashing those checks, are you sacrificing something? If you're one of those guys who it's based on percentages, right? My entire career is based off batting average, on base percentage, and slugging percentage, not runs or RBIs or hits. It's based on the percentages that I put up. So to lose those things in the last few years, it sucks because he's Canadian and he's like it's one of the best Canadians I've ever seen.
He's the most interesting man in baseball. There's a reason why.
He's got a great.
There's a reason why every single player that goes on the Chris Rose rotation on the Jumbo Media channel. It's not a selfless plug, but that's just one I've watched. There's a reason why with every single player that comes on, there's at least one Joey Votto story.
Yeah, there's one. Here's one right here.
Exactly. There you go.
All right, a couple more from the YouTube chat. So Christopher says, Jen is in the house. She always brings the good stuff. So shout out to Jen. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Let's use this opportunity now to say our goodbyes. Jen, thanks again. It's been a treat as always. Love talking ball with you.
Thanks for having me on again. Anytime you want to bring me on, please do so.
Well, you've earned an open invite at this point. So whenever you're free on a Sunday, you know the code to get into the Zoom chat. So we'll always click admit on that one. So thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
All right, let's throw it out to the new face. Al, Garth Orgy on Twitter. Explain the username, or do I want to know?
Garth Orgy? Well, it's just like Garth Orgy was a second baseman, third baseman in the 80s for the Jays, and I always just thought he had like the weirdest last name, like Orge, spelled with an I.
All right, so there's no sex involved in your username that way.
No, it's just whenever I decided to go on, Jay's Twitter, I didn't want to use my real name. I just kind of wanted to be this anonymous asshole who makes, smarmy comments about Kevin Biggio, in private. So I just chose Garth Orgy. Nothing there, but I do have a new. Started putting out weekly-ish articles. There's a link in my Twitter page. My latest one is about how much I hate Garrett Cole and why he's just an insufferable asshole.
Joel, I think you need to read that as soon as this ends. You're gonna love that. I already know.
It's funny because I'm anonymous on TikTok, so that Garrett Cole doesn't kill me.
Oh, I don't care. You can come at me. I don't even care.
All right, Joel. Let's say goodbye to you now. What are you working on? How close is your movie to being done?
Oh, over the weekend we did our final set of auditions. We shoot on Tuesday. We shoot the following weekend, and then one more shoot, and it's done. So
still doing auditions through the whole process, though. Hey, it's
every single new actor who comes, we audition multiple actors to play the role.
Right.
So it's been shooting for a month now, and we have the final scene that we're shooting in 2 weeks. We did the casting for that. Pretty much like it's about finding the groove that we have with the previous actors, and then finding new actors that will go along with those actors and what they provided. So it's getting a taste of their acting helps us do auditions literally in the process. So yeah, it's been really, really fun.
I know you've explained this not weird,
Yeah.
this new movie producing technique that you're working on. I still can't fucking understand it, but I'm sure looking forward to watching it, and I'm sure I'll understand at that point exactly. But very cool.
I compare it to like American Idol. Okay. You know how you watch American Idol and you see 1,000 people come to audition for that spot to be the American Idol?
Sure.
Well, it's like we do that with acting. We show all of the would-be characters come in, give their performance, and you see 150 actors at the beginning, and then it breaks down slowly until you get that main character. And then what goes along with it as well is the fully produced film that they're auditioning for. So it's a movie that's like, it's a concept that's 50% behind the scenes and 50% the scenes. So you're equally involved with who the actor is as well as the character that they're playing.
So basically you like watched Inception and you're like, this is too easy to follow. I got to make this harder for Adam to watch.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Come on, Nolan. Let's bring it up to another
Baby
level.
steps here. All right. Looking forward to seeing the finished product. Last but not least, our new resident Orioles fan, Jack. Thanks so much for sitting down with a couple Blue Jays fans and talking baseball with us. Really appreciated all your insight and love what you're doing on TikTok. So I know you got to get back to your studies, your homework. But break down for everybody what you're doing on TikTok, because it's not just Orioles stuff. So,
right. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I absolutely loved being on here, and I always love talking to Blue Jays fans. There's really none in Baltimore, really not many on TikTok to talk to. So I must admit I do like the Blue Jays players. At the team, I'm legally bound not to. I'm sorry. It has to be this way. No. But on TikTok, my username is Daily Dose of Baseball. I make so many different kinds of videos. I respond to comments with videos. I make play breakdowns. I make like free agent predictions and stuff like that. So pretty much and I share my favorite plays in like MLB history. I just literally say, that's my favorite, and then show the clip. It's like my favorite thing to do. So I kind of do a little bit of everything on there, and I love bringing my love to baseball, to just having conversations with other baseball fans. It's just my favorite thing to do, really.
So, I mean, if a Kevin Gossman Blue Jays jersey was to find its way to your P.O. box, you wouldn't put that thing on?
I would wear that with pride. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Oh my God. If anything, Gosman, I would wear it. I loved him in Baltimore.
Right.
I wish he spent more time here. I did. But it's probably best he didn't. So
Do you watch the Kevin Gossman starts for Toronto this year? Are those the 20% of Blue Jays games you're tuning into?
I do watch those highlights on YouTube, yeah. I watch every single highlight I can find of him on Film Room just so I can just see how he's playing. And he looks like a completely different player. It's wonderful. It really is. I'm so happy for him.
Good. That's a very pure and loving take. So we'll end it there. Thanks again, everybody, for your time on the panel, talking with us. Thanks to everybody who was here with the live stream Sunday night. And if you're watching this on replay tomorrow morning, Monday, thank you so much. If you haven't already, subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends, share us on Reddit, all that stuff. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.